Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how I created a roadmap for one of my students to help them jump from a grade 6 to 9 in GCSE Spanish and then go on to use this exact plan in 4 of their other subjects and jump from a grade 7 and 8 to a grade 9 in just a matter of weeks. But first, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Estriana and I am your Smart Spanish teacher and academic coach. And for the last 12 years, I have been helping parents secure their child a grade 7 to 9 in GCSE Spanish the smart way. And today I'm going to walk you through the roadmap that I built for one of my students to help them achieve a grade 9, not just in Spanish, but in 4 of their other subjects by just changing and fixing how they were revising. And here's something that I learned very early on as a student myself that I find now so many students are actually missing when it comes to revision as a whole, but particularly when it comes to Spanish, and it is a plan. A lot of students are going in and just trying to study for Spanish, but actually not necessarily seeing the results fast enough that they want to see. And so they end up feeling quite discouraged with the rate of progress that they are actually not making. And as parents, we go, oh, I don't know what I can actually do to help. But this is why you're watching this video. So what I have done for my students and what I walked my student through is this acronym for plan. So plan actually stands for something, and the P stands for problem. Many students are actually missing defining what the actual problem is when it comes to their studying. And what they don't realize is that unless they define that problem, they will never get to the actual solution that they need to help them make the progress, to really just get over the roadblock that is stopping them from making progress and then move forward to making the progress that they want to make. And so this first part of creating this plan has this specific criteria. And if you do not meet this specific criteria in this part, everything else falls flat. You need to make sure that your problem to solution is SMART. It is specific. You need to make sure that you're defining a specific problem. I'm struggling in Spanish. I'm struggling with speaking. I'm struggling with listening is not specific. It needs to be measurable. Now, the way that you do this is by looking at a recent test or a recent any score that you got. If you don't have that to hand in your problem, you'll never be able to measure the progress in your solution, and to see whether the solution that you came up with was even worthwhile. Your problem to solution also needs to be achievable. I have never heard of a student jumping from a U to a 9 in a week. Okay, so they need to be achievable, smaller steps that you are making so that you can get to your overall goal, yes, but it needs to be achievable. You also need to make sure that your problem is relevant. So you may be struggling with something in Spanish, but we need to think about, especially as it gets closer to the exam, is this specifically relevant to what I am going to need to know in the exam? If not, get rid of it. And there also needs to be a time element to it. How long is it going to take your solution to work to fix your problem? You need to be aware of those things as you're coming up with what I call your solvable problem. Okay, and that's a word that I actually learned from my business mentor, but I love it and I use it now and it's fantastic. And so my student's solvable problem was this. She was getting a 3 out of 10 actually in the last mock speaking that I did with her. She ended up with a 3 out of 10 in her content mock, in her general conversation. She was overall a grade 6, but speaking was actually pulling down a lot of her mocks, and she wanted to get that grade 9. So By the next 1-to-1 mark, this is what she said to me. She said that she wanted to achieve a grade 8 or more. Now, she was willing to put in 2-3 hours a week into Spanish, and our next speaking mark was a couple of weeks away. So, how do we go about moving forward with this? But this is a great solvable problem. Why? Because we know it's a specific exam, a specific part of the exam, and it was a measurable score. From 3 to 8 in a couple of weeks is achievable. Okay, she's not trying to jump multiple grades, but she is trying to jump a few marks in a specific section of the exam. Thus, it is achievable. It's relevant because we're talking about the exam, and there is a time limit because it's by the next 1-to-1 mark. So what we're going to be able to do is, once we get through the rest of this, she's done it already, but she's done her revision sessions, and then she's come to do that mock with me. We've been able to look back at this and to see whether what she was doing was working. If it was, keep going with those revision techniques. If not, then we'd be able to look back and go, okay, these are the things that we might need to chop and change. Okay. So the next thing is that L. What does that L stand for? The L stands for learning style. What is a learning style? And your learning style is simply the unique way in which your brain processes information, and everybody has their own way, and we all fall into a few categories. Okay. But my student, she fell into, and she knew this already, we had been through this, she knows that she fell into her visual learner and she was an auditory learner. Now, funnily enough, previous to working with myself, she was actually found that she was writing things down a lot, and it just wasn't necessarily working. Even though she was a really bright student, upon doing a little bit of research, we realized that she's actually a visual auditory learner. And these are some of the things that she likes to do as a visual auditory learner, some of the techniques. So it's really, really good. As you're coming up with this plan, you can think about some of the ways in which you are going to be studying, either intaking or processing any learning that you're going to do. So we're going to make sure that a lot of her revision sessions include pictures, she's highlighting, color coding things, she's doing lots of speaking and watching videos, because this is the way in which she learns, how her brain processes information. And in the same way, it's really important that this is what you do or your child does in order to make progress. So we've got our problem. We know our learning style. The next thing that we need to look at is the assessment criteria, A. Okay, so we had a look and we come down and we can see that she got a 3 out of 10 in the content, and she wants to get an 8. So she wants to completely stick this band and get right to the top of this one. Okay, so we have to look at some of the things that she needs to do. So we had a read of this one, okay? Giving short responses is what she was doing. She was only occasionally giving those extended responses. She was only occasionally narrating events or telling stories, okay? And she was usually giving clear information, but there was a lack of clarity from time to time. But actually that wasn't an issue specifically with her. But the third issue was that she was giving opinions. That's great, but only some of them were explained. So we have a look up here and we can see that to achieve an 8, she needs to make sure that she's developing extended responses. She's narrating events, telling those stories, and giving and explaining opinions. So her opinions not only need to be given, but they need to be explained. So we make a statement based on that. So in order for her to achieve an 8 out of 10, she needs to extend most of her answers. She needs to tell stories, and then she needs to do something that I call rec opinions, which is that giving and explaining of opinions, giving a reason, example, and comparison. So now we know that that's what she needs to do. In order to be able to get from here to here, she can't do the same things that she was doing previously. Why? Because trying to do the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So the N in the word plan stands for new. Okay, what are the new things that she is going to be doing between when we set this plan and the next mock, one-to-one mock that we had? What was she going to be doing within that time? So it's simply related to this. She was going to, again, we're keeping it specific, learn 3 7+ phrases. She was going to focus on her chosen topic and create 5 new stories. And then she was going to add those rec opinions to all of her opinions. So those were the things that she was going to be therefore focusing on during her revision sessions in order to make progress. And that's exactly what she was able to do. She implemented this over a few weeks and got that 8 out of 10 and managed to move up to by following this process, okay, and doing this with all of her other problems, she was able to move up from that grade 6 to a grade 9. And then she was able to improve in all of her other subjects by just following this simple plan framework. What's the problem so that she can find that solution? What's the solution to that problem? Learning, defining her learning style, which we already knew, but choosing what she was going to do in each study session, looking at the assessment criteria, and then defining what 3 new things she was going to do between now and the next time that she was going to assess herself or be assessed in order to make the progress that she wanted to see. If you would like my help in fixing your Year 10 or Year 11's GCSE Spanish revision plan, then there's some details below this video on how you can get in touch, and I look forward to chatting with you. Now, if you just enjoy consuming some of my free content, then give me a like or a subscribe or comment down below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.